So if someone is looking to buy, is this a really good time to buy?
It depends on what you find. Prices have come down. Property values, as you know, have come down about 20–25% since their peaks. So there are some great buys out there. What wasn't affordable a year ago could be affordable today. The caveat is that there still is more price decline out ahead of us. Over the next 12 months, property values in South Florida are expected to drop another 10 up to 20% in some areas. So if you buy something today, you must be very careful that you are certain you're getting it at the absolute rock bottom price, because again, if you buy it today, that value could be 10% lower a year from now, or maybe up to 20% a year from now. And so you've got to kind of build that into your decision. Do I wait or do I buy?
There's a lot of property out there for sale. What about foreclosures and all kinds of other types of sales? When is it a good time to invest? Is a foreclosure a good investment?
There's a lot of great buys now on foreclosures, but foreclosures, as tempting as they are because of the low price, are really not for everybody, because most foreclosures are the property is not in good condition. It has been damaged extensively in many cases on the inside. It hasn't been maintained on the outside, and it could cost $10,000 to $20,000, $30,000 to get that house back to livable condition. And anyone buying a foreclosure has to anticipate that cost, and it could even be higher.
What about an FHA loan? How does that work into a person's planning?
FHA loans are becoming more important than ever because the program's been expanded to many more applicants. The old FHA program was a little bit more limited than it is today. Someone might want to consider an FHA program if they don't have much of a down payment. A typical down payment is 3%. That's the minimum. In today's market, often the requirement is a little bit more, 5% or 10% down. FHA, you can get into that home with a 3% down payment, and the beauty about FHA financing is that money can be a gift. It can come from other sources, where conventional financing requires that 3% come from the applicant. But with FHA, it can be a gift from a friend. It can come from any other source. It can come from a subsidy program. The other benefit with FHA is if someone is credit challenged, there is not a minimum credit score for an applicant of an FHA program. This is a government-backed program. It's a wide-reaching program. More and more lenders are getting involved with offering FHA financing, because in today's market, more and more folks will need FHA financing. There have been a lot of folks over the last couple of years, because of the economy, that have some credit challenges, and they've seen their credit scores decline. With no minimum credit score required for a mortgage, FHA may be an option. And there are a lot of options today, especially with so many homes being on the market today. A record number of homes on the market, a lot of motivated sellers today, more so than ever. So it really is a great time to consider your options and to consider selling or buying your home and getting some financing. More programs than ever today.
What about closing costs? What is the norm for a closing cost, and what would that mortgage look like?
Yeah, assuming a mortgage of around $250,000, you're going to be looking at a down payment, let's say at 3%. And on that, you need to come up with about $7,700 for a down payment. On top of that, typically closing costs are 2 to 3% of the amount that you apply for. So on that mortgage, you could be looking at an additional $500 to $7,500 on top of your down payment. So again, $12,000 to $15,000 perhaps is what you're going to need to have saved up front just to cover the down payment and the typical closing costs. On top of that, any improvements you want to make to the home, you need to have emergency funds available. You know, what if 2 months after you move into the home, your air conditioner goes? You have a flood in your home. Reserves in home ownership are very important. Today's guideline is that you should have 6 months of your annual salary in the bank, in reserve, in your credit union for an emergency, a job loss, an unexpected expense. Now, it's hard to keep 6 months of your reserves of your annual salary in the bank, but that should be your goal, because home ownership can be expensive. You've got to take care of that upkeep yourself, and you can't rely on anyone else. It's a long-term, big financial commitment.
Yes, it is.
And you want to protect your credit, you want to protect your home, you want to stay in your home, so budget effectively. Too many folks have fallen into the trap of not doing the basics of budgeting and controlling expenses. And the most important thing about home ownership, if you're considering that, you need to set out a budget for yourself. You need to be realistic on what you can afford and what you can't afford. And when you're going out looking for homes, know what you can afford and never let somebody talk you into getting more home than you plan to get. It's very tempting to see something a little bit nicer or a lot nicer and be convinced that you can do it. But if you have in advance gone through your budget and you know what your limit is, don't be tempted. Stay within your means, because things can quickly get out of hand. A good mortgage lender will do just that. If they see that that mortgage is too much for you, they're going to let you know, because we need to protect that homeowner, and we need to protect the credit union as well. So a good lender is going to really not try to put you into something that you can't afford. They're not going to force an approval. And that's what happened over the last couple of years with a lot of lenders that got too aggressive. The reason they got so aggressive is property values in South Florida were going up so high. 10% a year, 5% a year, consistently. So it was always felt like the lender could take more risk because property values were going up. And as we can see, the result today is not a good one. We've learned some lessons.
Thank you, and be with us again for another segment of Around Town. This is Stella Tokar.